Gives me great pleasure now to introduce our next session, which is Conversation in the Future of Manufacturing. It gives me great pleasure once again to introduce our moderator, Dato Lian, Chief Executive Officer of InvestPenang, to be joined by AK Chong, Vice President of Manufacturing, Supply Chain and Operations, and also the Managing Director of Intel Malaysia, Dato Shida Ahmad, Vice President and General Manager for Global Manufacturing and Supply Chain, Keysight Technologies, Sun Kwek, General Manager and Managing Director of Lam Manufacturing Malaysia, and Wei Lei Peng, Chief Executive Officer of Vijaya Pack. And I do once again believe, oh yes, we have an all-lady panel. Isn't it so amazing? Did you see that? A little bit, as I do know once again, we are pushing for time, but just a little bit about our moderator, who heads InvestPenang, Principal Investment Promotion Agency, leading point for contact for investment attraction, facilitation, and support for foreign and local businesses. Please keep the questions coming to the QR code, and it gives me great pleasure to hand the session over to Dato Lian. Join me in giving the panel a big warm welcome, please. Dato Lu.
Thank you so much, MC. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting me to moderate this session. I listened with awe at the first panel, and when the first panelist talked about the regional and global economy and all the macro policies and all the challenges that faced us, it was exhilarating. It was actually quite worrisome, and in Dr. Kwa's own word, is actually quite disheartening. So I'm going to take this conversation a few 100,000 feet down, and we're going to be talking this afternoon about the future of manufacturing. I think we've known that in Penang, the twin engine of growth that has kept our economy going for the last 50 years has been manufacturing and services, and predominantly the E&E sector. Now, I think the E&E sector has recorded a global sales of $500 billion in 2022 and projected to contribute $700 billion in 2028 and probably up to $1 trillion in 2030. Penang contributes 6% of that, and maybe even more. So I was encouraged that at the end, Dr. Danny said, look at the center of excellence in semiconductor that Penang can build. I was encouraged on that. Because we have not only been focusing on E&E, we have diversified actually into medical devices, equipment, food technology, amongst others. Now, in this session, with all my lady friends, we'll be talking about the future of manufacturing. We will be talking about the trends going forward, the uncertainties in the global market, and how manufacturers can take a leading role in the economic recovery and still remain resilient, hopefully, for the next 50 years. We'll be talking about Industry 4.0. We'll be talking about the sustainability agenda and, of course, the supply chain resiliencies. So today, I am so delighted to introduce my line of very distinguished speakers, all of whom hold leadership roles in their organization, vast experience in diverse industries, including semiconductor, front and back-end equipment manufacturing, as well as the industrial packaging solution provider. So I will now introduce each of them. AK Chong, she's here on my right. She's a Vice President of Manufacturing, Supply Chain and Operations, and Managing Director of Intel Malaysia, and the General Manager of Systems Integration and Manufacturing Services Operations. And she's responsible for the broad and system assembly factory that produces testers for Intel's factories and labs globally. She joined Intel in 1991 after graduating and has been in the company since. And we have Dato Shida. She's the Vice President and General Manager of Keysight's Global Order Fulfillment and Supply Chain. She's a very powerful lady. She has full accountability of the company's worldwide end-to-end supply chain and manufacturing and technology centers operations across the US, Europe, and Asia. And Shida has 30 years of extensive international experience in the semiconductor, electronic instruments, and IT industries, and has held key global positions in this field. Sun, the lady in red, she is the general manager of Lam Manufacturing Malaysia, which is our new kid on the block, I like to call them. The company has just started its latest and largest advanced manufacturing production facility in Batu Kawan Industrial Park. Sun has been living and working in the US for over 20 years. Before this role, she was a senior director of supply chain management of Lam Research in California, USA. Then Ms. Ui Lei Peng, she's the CEO of Berjaya Pack, and she is the local company in this lineup of organizations that's joined us. She's a leading group. Berjaya Pack is a leading group of companies that create solutions for the logistics and packaging industry. Lei Peng was in the US for many years. She came back to join the group, her family business, in 2015, and she has transformed the company from a traditional wooden pallet business into an integrated supply industry packaging solution company serving many multinationals. So good afternoon, and thank you so much, ladies, for joining me in this session. Can we give them a hand and applaud, please? So, ladies, now Penang's economic phenomena in the last 50 years has predominantly been contributed by manufacturing, right? So while it is true that the manufacturing industry had played a very important role in the last 50 years, raising the state's GDP, creating high-value jobs, as well as having large economic spillover effects on the country, it now appears that this industry is currently placed in the crossroads, especially with the proliferation of digitalization and repercussion from the pandemic. There's now growing evidence on the challenges of manufacturing industry, well, in terms of unfilled skill sets, disengagement of talent, and the uprising of the gig economy, just to mention a few. The question we face today is, has manufacturing reached its peak? Is this the end of manufacturing for Penang? And if so, should Penang shift its gear to high-end services such as finance, consultancy, e-commerce, digital economy for the next 50 years? And all of these ladies comes from the multinationals and also local companies representing leaders in their field. So I'd like to start this session by posing this question to Shida. Now, it is said that manufacturing sector has reached its peak, and the digital economy is the next emerging trend. Do you agree with this, and how does this apply to Keysight? Now, I just want to mention here that Keysight and Intel this year are celebrating their 50th anniversary in Penang. So Shida, thank you.
Well, thank you, Lilian, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, there's a lot of new trends in terms of digitalization. So to the question of has manufacturing got to its peak, I've read a lot of the most recent one from Dr. Professor Chang on edible economy, and I concur that manufacturing is here to stay. If you think back about the role of manufacturing and what it has done to spur the growth of economy. I mean, looking back, industrialization and how it had spurred many technological advances and also productivity growth. So I think it's here to stay. Now, of course, the world is now in a digital world. There's, the digital economy and services. I do believe it needs to coexist with manufacturing. What digitalization does is enable to further enhance the value of manufacturing. I mean, the key point is digitalization allows manufacturing to be done much more efficiently and much more smartly. And we can then build much more complex, much more sophisticated products. And that's what makes a company, a country like us, much more competitive. So, talking about digitalization, Lilian, Keysight has been here 50 years. We make very highly complex instruments and products, and Penang is the largest manufacturing operations for the company. And over the last few years, we have definitely embarked on digitalization activities for our operations. So if you look at our production lines, lots of automation in the processes, test operations that runs 24/7 with minimal supervision, augmented by what I call optimized intelligence schedulers that would enable us to get the highest output from the lines. We have deployed robots, collaborative robots or cobots that will augment the resources on manufacturing. And, this digitalization cuts across all of the supply chain too, right? Be it in planning, procurement, and logistics. But more than that, I think what's critical in digitalization is the ability to connect the end-to-end supply chain, all the way from our external partners, our contract manufacturers, our suppliers, our logistics providers, to our internal operations. And for Keysight, that's the fab, that's assembly and test. And that allows us visibility to know what's going on up and down the supply chain, but more importantly, it allows us to respond and react quickly to any change or any disruption. Then we're talking about resilience now, right? So, and I think, digitalization is going to be key. And so in some sense, it allows us to do more. And if you go back to the question of, is it at its peak? I don't believe so. We can do much, much more, and we can definitely move Penang forward into the digital era and beyond.
Thank you, Shida. So, AK, now Intel, as we know, is celebrating its 50 years here, and it continues to expand with recent investment of US $7 billion that is said to surpass its 50 years aggregate investment. So we're very encouraged. I think Intel keep achieving new peaks. So please, can you share with us what is Intel Penang's, how did it evolve in the last 50 years? What is the equity that keeps its resiliencies? And what do you expect to focus in the next 10, 20, 50 years?
Okay, thank you, Dato, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be able to be part of the panel with all these industry leaders. So, yeah, we just celebrated over 50 years, and in fact, it's right here at the Spice Arena about 6 weeks ago. I can still vividly hear the fun and the cheers, right, from our employees throughout that 3 days. With our 15,000 strong employees. Before I go and answer your question, I was thinking that maybe I should comment on your big question at the introduction. Has manufacturing reached its peak? I would say the manufacturing is alive and well, right? As you can see, the world that we are living today, right? Everything is becoming more digital. The way you read, the way you study, the way that you catch the news. And the world become more digital. What you require is semiconductors. So I would say that the manufacturing, particularly in semiconductor and E&E, is bright as we continue to pursue the Moore's law. If you look at Intel in the last 50 years, we actually start with just 100 employees, right, manufacturing the small memory chips. And right now we have evolved, building the most advanced CPU. And I would say that most of the computer is powered by the CPU that locally made in Intel Penang, that you have either here or at home. So we have evolved so much so that we have even advanced to our test manufacturing, providing our own test equipment, sophisticated field analysis lab. And by 2024, as you just mentioned just now, we will have another 2 big mega factory that will be setting up to produce the advanced packaging technology. And what does it mean by this advanced packaging technology? It's actually a new technology that only a very few high-tech company can do it at scale, and Intel is one of them. This allows you to mix and match out different chips from a different node, integrating across the logic, the memory, and the rest of the silicon into the wafer, and then integrate the system in a single package. And Intel Penang is at the forefront of this technology. And as we speak right now, actually we already have a team of engineers at the US picking up the knowledge and the technology to make sure that we're able to start up by 2024. And when that is ready and set up, it will be the largest clean room facility that we have at Intel Corporation with multi-level, multifunctional factory under one single roof. So if you ask me, what is the focus for the next 10 years? Our focus really, you know, for Intel, Malaysia continue to play a key role in our IDM 2.0 strategies, and we to make sure that we successfully set up this leading technology, which is the advanced packaging, and it will take a multi-year journey for us to fill up this giant factory, maturing the process so that we can build the HVM, we call high volume manufacturing, as cost-effective with the best yield ever.
There you are.
Yeah.
There you are. I think it's excellent work coming forth.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Well, I'd like to move now to the new kid on the block, Lam Research. So soon, with the proliferation of Industry 4.0 that is spurring the changes in multiple aspects in the world that we live in today. Right? And with the newest and the biggest site in Batu Kawan, Lam Research had challenged many norms and broke many benchmarks in a good way in Penang. So how does Lam Research embraces innovation within your organization, and what do you expect for the new site?
So, first of all, thank you for asking that question, and I truly echo the sentiments and also the sharing from Dato Sheila and also from AK. It's very much similar across the industry, especially now we're talking about digitalization. We talk about Industry 4.0, you talk about lights out manufacturing, you talked about machine learning, AI, so on and so forth. So specifically for Lam Research, our site in Batu Kawan, and we do have very nice building, but it's not about the building. It's about creating an environment to show our people that manufacturing does not have to be boring. Do not think about labor force in a monotonous production floor. Manufacturing intercepts so many operations functions, from finance to order fulfillment, supply chain, logistics, so on and so forth. And therefore, it's really important for us to show that there are a lot of attractive, important, innovative elements that are added to it. So let's go back to our building again. We specifically designed it so that people can interact, so that it is not just a production site, even though that is at its core. But we enable employees' engagement. We do set a fairly attractive, say, compensation and benefits here in Penang for our company. But that is because it is important. The talent should be rewarded so. The value should be right. Our employees' engagement activities, our benefits, Dato Lu will once again, many times have reminded me the benchmark we have set when it comes to maternity leave, paternity leave for our employees. It's 20 weeks for the mothers, it's 16 weeks for the fathers. So we are really setting that up. And that is very, very important. And therefore, manufacturing is here to stay.
Thank you for that. I want to turn now to the local companies. And we have seen transformation among local enterprises for the last 5 years. Many companies have gone into the main board. But we have constantly been reminded that there's no Malaysian home brand that had joined the global names like Samsung and TSMC. So Lei Peng, what should the local companies do to upgrade themselves to ensure their spot in the global value chain?
Thank you, Dato Lu, for the questions. All right, if we look at Penang, the first tier MNC are Intel, Keysight, Lam, right? They are the big names out there. So when we look at the local, we have companies like Great Tech, V-Trucks, UWC, providing very good supporting to all these companies. So when we compare the first tier and the second tier, there is a gap. It's not difficult to not notice that there is a gap, and that is lack of innovation. And a lot has to do, both down to our education system here, that we need to actually put more encouragement and support to groom the required skills for the future growth. Element of critical thinking is very important to inculcate the culture of innovation. We need to do much more in R&D, right, for the local company. But to say that we are lack of this, Malaysian company to benchmark to TSMC or even Samsung, I actually personally know, actually a lot of you also know, this Malaysian actually shine very brightly in United States. He made the headline early this year in May, and it was in newspaper. He is a Malaysian, born in Penang, taken out from the country, and he studied in US. And he was given opportunity to go through the culture, to experience the culture, right? And those who study in US before, you know how innovative, right, the West is compared to the local. And I'm talking about Broadcom, Mr. Tan Hock Eng. We all know him, right? He's the current CEO of Broadcom. And he has helped turn Broadcom into technology conglomerate that worth USD 225 billion, right? So to say that we don't have one, we actually have one, but it's not here, right in Penang. It's actually being taken out, and we always say that I am so sayang, right? And to say that whether manufacturing has reached its peak, definitely no. We know that manufacturing is important, and it actually fits the wall. It fits the wall, and to meet the new demand of AI, Internet of Things, communication, data storage, to name a few, it actually fueled the company for future expansions, right? And to meet the supply chain issues.
Thank you, thank you. I think there's a general consensus here that manufacturing is here to stay. And I think we have also moved from very low-end manufacturing now to very high technology in its breadth and its depth. We are embracing digitalization in all manner and in all aspects of manufacturing. I think it will continuously play a very important role in our economy. And we should take advantage of the current situation now to find the sweet spot for us to excel in. And I just want to quote from, again, Professor Chong, since he was here two weeks ago, and everybody is now quoting from his book. He says that manufacturing is still the main source of technology, innovation, and R&D, and the ability to produce manufactured goods competitively remains the most important determinant of the country's living standards. Now I want to move to the next topic or the next point of discussion. And we can't talk about manufacturing today without touching on the geopolitical movements, right? We all know the world is in an inflection point. Massive geopolitical movement and changes, supply chain disruption, disengagement, talent crunch, inflation, these are all unprecedented challenges. But the optimists also see it as unprecedented opportunity. Now, we have been resilient in the last 50 years by constantly seizing opportunities that arises from this global development. But this is the perfect storm, the enormous storm. Is this now a threat or an opportunity for us? So we start off with Sun, and I think we've read that your CEO, Tim Archer, has been talking about the concept of the semi-verse. And this is the concept where the company leverages on hybrid physical virtual environment in company's operation. And in this case, in your mind, will geographical location be still a key consideration for companies when they're making manufacturing investment decisions?
So yes, indeed, Lam Research CEO, Mr. Tim Archer, was actually here during SemiCon Southeast Asia, and when he gave the speech, he introduced the concept of semiverse. So semiverse is definitely a future where it enables the research lab, the process engineering, supply chain, testing to collaborate in a virtual space. And this definitely creates much greater capacity for innovation and for disruptive ideas, where different parties can collaborate, can test out different ideas, simulations, in a more effective and economical way, and faster as well. However, at the end of the day, you will still need a place where you put all this concept into something that is tangible. We will still need the real transistors to go into our iPhones and your GPS and your PlayStations. That still has to happen. And therefore, the fact that you still have to do manufacturing, you will still need human resource, talent, logistics, materials, labor force, design engineers. And that absolutely does not negate the need of choosing the right location for manufacturing.
Thank you, thank you. It's for a CEO of the investment promotion agency, that's actually quite reassuring for me. Thank you. Okay, the convergence of technology is predicted to lead the transformation of the industry in the next decade. Now, with the acceleration of global digitalization agenda, Lei Peng, how does Berjaya Pack advocate the use of advanced technology? And from your experience in transforming the traditional family business, in what areas do the integration of technologies occur the most?
So in Berjaya Pack, we concentrate our technology advancement in 4 areas. The first one is materials. The second one is manufacturing processes. The third one is information system. And the fourth one is supply chain management system. So for the material, we are looking at alternative material. We are embarking onto R&D, and we are doing a lot of testing to test out different materials that meet the packaging needs. For the manufacturing processes, we are looking at automation or mechanization and testing. And for information system, we are looking at HRMS. We are talking about CRM, ERP, all these things. Then for the supply chain management, we are looking at tracking. And a lot of time, we take one step out is to go out overseas to involve in the forum so that we know the latest trend in the technology and what is happening in our industry. And in Berjaya Pack, we actually serve Intel, Keysight, and Lam. They are our top 10 customers. And we are being pushed by them. They have very high standard when it comes to it. So we are being led by our customers' technological advancement. And when you talk about geopolitical situation, I think of Kishore Mahbubani. I think a lot of you also know him, right? And he says that, let me quote from him. He says that Europe represents yesterday, and US represents today, and the future, and Asia represents the future. And I really think that, with so much of FDI poured into Penang, and I think Dato Lu, you know the figures better than all of us. It's in your fingertips, right, the FDI. And I definitely think that, Penang, Malaysia, actually is in a very unique place. We are into this place to grab the opportunities of the FDI.
Thank you for saying that. Unfortunately, my boss, the chief minister, has left the room, but I'm sure his policymakers will relay that message to him. So building on the geopolitical movements and the opportunities that arises from it now, I want to talk about the future of semiconductor. And the best person, I think, to pose this question to is AK. Now, Intel has always been holding on the leading role in the semiconductor industry. So what do you foresee as the future of the semiconductor industry? And given the increasing uncertainties in the global market, politically, environmentally, socially, how can companies balance the near and long-term market priorities to seize the opportunities going forward? Tough question for you, sorry.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, right, the world is becoming more digital and you need more advanced chip to support heavy workload, right? So Intel believe, we all need a more robust supply chain. It has to be broader, accessible, and reliable against the geopolitical conflict that we have. And that's why our CEO has been making multiple investment announcements that you all may have heard or read about it. And Penang is one of it, right? That we said that we have a single biggest investment of 7B. And I'm sure we are not the only one. And Dato Lu, you have all the numbers, within the InvestPenang here. And when you look into all this, right, whenever we bring in a new investment, a new technology, it means that they will attract dozens of suppliers and the ecosystem partners to supply the material, to supply the equipment. So I will say that Penang is at the best position, right, to establish, to become one of the key players in the semiconductor industry. Of course, when you look at the technology that we're bringing in, just like what we mentioned just now, right, we will actually raise the standard for the entire local ecosystem. And we always say, right, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So how we want to get ready? How we want to get ready all the time with the right talent? Talent has been a key issue, I would say a key, either you say crisis or opportunity for all of us. And that is where I think as a Penang state and together with the industry, academia, we have to nurture the talent that with the right skill. And not only that, Penang needs to provide infrastructure that people not only want to come to work, but wanted to stay here. So I would say that if we position it well, Penang State can be cements its position as the Silicon Valley of the East.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move to Shida, and I know you guys are waving at me that I'm already out of time, but look, Shida is like I say, she is the global supply chain guru. Okay, and with all these new buzzword of friendshoring instead of offshoring, just in case, instead of just in time, these are all new norms, right? And Shida, please, and we don't have much time, I know, please let us know, in your view, talk to us about how Keysight, what efforts are Keysight doing to improve your supply chain resiliencies, to future-proof your supply chain.
Thank you, Dato Lu. Yeah, you know, in the last 3 years, with all the different disruptions that we see, supply chain resilience has been a key topic in every boardroom. And in the role that I play, I have had to regularly update and review our supply chain resilience with my own board of directors. I mean, and with any supply chain situation, right, you got to start with looking at what are the risks that's out there. And you know what? We have lots of risks. And then you look at the areas that we are vulnerable at and then create the mitigation plans. And there are many different strategies that you can take to future-proof your supply chain. And I thought, you know, in the interest of time, I'll just share a couple of them. I mean, I know this is more tactical, or you can say 10,000 feet on the ground. First thing to avoid is avoid single source supply chains, okay? And I mean, in the last 2 years, where semiconductor products has been short, you know, for a product like Keysight, where 30 to 40,000 components are used to build one of our complex equipment, all you need is the last part, and it just gates the entire shipment. So what we have done a lot is to look at alternate parts to be used. And what we call in Keysight value capture engineering, I have engineers, you know, product engineer, R&D, materials engineer, to proactively look at alternate parts that can be used. You know, because they could be made more available, or they have lead times that's shorter for some ICs for a year and a half, right? So we do a lot of that, and it has helped mitigate a lot of my revenue stream. And the other thing is about building capabilities in just one, more than just one area. Within Keysight, Penang is the biggest site, but I do have operations in the US and Europe. For some critical capabilities, I've had to build those capabilities in other regions. So while nobody has the volume capability of Penang, if something really happens to Penang, at least we are, you know, we secure our capabilities, we can tie it over until Penang recovers, for example. And the other thing I can talk about is really, you know, digitalization. You know, in the trend today, digitalization is really an enabler for resilience. The ability to know what's happening up and down your supply chain allows us visibility. We can react faster, and we can respond quickly to any changes or disruption. And maybe a couple of points, you know, so these are some strategies, but I want to highlight a couple of points. Number one, you've got to look at your resilient plans periodically, because there are changing risks, number one. Number two, look at it end to end. It's not good enough that you have a resilient plans, your internal company. What about your contract manufacturers? What about your logistics providers, right? Don't forget that they have their resilient program also. Last but not least, resilience in people. Those are the ones that we need to keep close watch and make sure they can work together through thick and thin in these unprecedented times. I think at Keysight, all these strategies have allowed us to navigate the challenges of the supply chain successfully.
Thank you, Shida. You should write a book on that. So one more last question, Mr. MC, sir. one more question. And so this is just maybe in 2 sentences, right? So you're the site leader of Penang's operation, and you're going to take the company to the next 10 years and lay the foundation for the next 50 years. What is your vision and key focus in taking your company to this next level? And what legacy do you wish to leave behind? Starting off from AK and down, maybe in 2 sentences. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll do this quickly, given the time that we have. My vision is for Intel Malaysia to become the mega site and the world-class site for Intel Corporation. With that, we will have the world-class talents that are able to consistently to deliver the ambitious goal that our company is pursuing, create the technology that enrich the life of every person on earth.
Okay, great.
Ida?
We've been here for 50 years. We are now a center of excellence doing advanced manufacturing. But beyond manufacturing and supply chain, Penang is home to many global functions in R&D, in sales, in service, in IT, in HR. Now, my vision is how do we take each of these functions and do it at a higher level, at a global level, and it starts with the leadership. So I'm very passionate about developing global leaders. Today, I just want to share that I'm very proud that outside of our corporate office, Malaysia has the highest global executives in Kisite, be it presidents, vice presidents, and 60% of those executives that's in Penang are women. So I am truly passionate about building that global leaders that can really take us to the next level.
Thank you.
I'll make it short. There is not different from what AK and also Dato Shida has shared. So it's no secret to us that when we come here, we intend to build the largest manufacturing site in 5 years. I've been here 2 years. We're getting to that goal already. And along with that, you will bring all the other associated functions along with it. The vision that I have is that this has to be the site that's set to be the benchmark for the rest of the Lam Research Corporation. And we'll get there because Penang can do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Berjapak has been around for the past 38 years, and we have grown leaps and bounds because of these companies. Yeah, so for us, Berjapak as a whole, we are going to grow even bigger, going to list on ACE market in beginning of 2023. And yeah, so my vision is to create greener solutions for global supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. When I put together this team, these panelists, when I spoke to this, and they were great because I called them at 8 p.m. at night, and within 20 minutes, I got them all to agree to come on stage with me. This was 2 months ago. But I scanned hard to look for ladies to come up the stage who are leaders in their respective field, and especially in the organization that they served. My intention is to show that ladies can talk about serious matters. And these ladies have actually proved it. So my vision and my hope is that 10 years down the road, when a panel like this is introduced, we have got more choices than just the 4 of you. So thank you very much again for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Dato Lu and ladies, for sharing. May we please invite you to remain on stage for a brief moment as Dato William Ng. I'd like to thank you once again for gracing our event. Tokens of our appreciation, especially to you. Let's give our panel another big round of applause, please.